guys, welcome back to Slash 2. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Kyle.
And this week we're going to be talking about portable gaming.
Handhelds and everything in between. And some not so handheld.
Yeah, literally everything in between your two hands.
Yeah, and some that have got a third bit involved, which is a plug socket. Because not all these handhelds are handheld completely.
Yeah, everything needs a little bit of help every now and then.
Yep.
Quick little brief update. The website is now... It's not up and running. The redirect is working straight back to YouTube.
Yeah.
So slash2.co.uk is a shortcut to find us because YouTube's algorithm still doesn't think we're a thing.
Will it ever think we're a thing?
Hopefully, one day.
Papa YouTube blesses your bosom.
We also, as part of setting up the website, is we now have obviously our own domain and an official email address. So at the minute it's very, very, very boring. It's just inquiries at slash2.co.uk. But if you guys have got any topic suggestions or anything you want to send us, just shoot them over. I'll check them. It links up to my phone, so I'm probably going to get spammed terribly now. But...
Yeah, well, any pictures sent, we will sign them and they'll be posted back to you within a week.
I'm not paying for postage for all of that.
Who said I was going to post them to the people?
Just random addresses.
I'll just find a letterbox and be like, there we go.
We've also ordered some official t-shirts though. So if anyone in, the UK, or specifically going to Birmingham MCM, if you see our logo on two very weird looking people wandering around confused.
And scared.
Come say hi. I think most of the people who listen to this already know us in person, but
yep.
It's always a start. We'll start by our first ever experiences with handheld gaming, I guess. Mine's kind of weird. So when I was growing up, my parents had a drawer that was mostly for... they used to keep small electronic parts in there and a few other bits and bobs, including a small pinball game. I say small, it was probably... I'm trying to think of a comparable size. About the size of a Switch game case. If anyone has got anything like that. Had about 4 buttons, and it had one of those screens that were like pre-printed and had like 6 spots that would just light up with the colours for the pinball moving around and for the 2 paddles. I think they've actually still got it buried in their house somewhere. I don't think they've ever gotten rid of it.
That'd be interesting to dig out.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look for it. But I remember as a very, very small child, all the way up to my teenage years really, just spamming the buttons on this like handheld, very early game. I don't really know what it was, but it was my first introduction that those funky things that my dad played that could move. What is this?
Portable witchcraft. Now, for me, it was this might strike a chord with some older listeners, I guess. Grandstand Scramble. It looked like someone had just chopped the top off an arcade machine just below the button deck. It took 4 D batteries, but by the time you got the batteries in and fired the damn thing up, it was time for a new set. So this primarily lived on a terrifying AC adapter that my grandfather bought years ago. It was brown. But no, it was pretty cool. There was 2 variants. We had both. One was basically a Space Invaders ripoff, and the other one tried to do the kind of like Star Fox 3D shooter sort of thing using vector graphics. It kind of worked, I guess, but I was only small and this was like the shit until I got my SNES. So but they were portable. That was the thing. So
portable in the same way that like technically an Xbox is portable,
or a CRT is TV is portable. You know,
you can unplug it and move it. It doesn't quite mean it's portable, but it's a step in the right direction.
And it was like a 50-50 chance that it was going to turn back on when you moved it and plugged it in. It was one of those things. It used to hum, but I loved it. I've still got it. I'll dig it out and maybe put some pictures of it online for those who are
we'll get some pictures
curious.
Ready for... I was going to say when this goes live, but it's going live in a couple of hours. Maybe not.
On the website. We'll eventually get around to putting a little gallery up there of all the weird and wonderful crap that we've got, because I have a lot of weird and wonderful crap.
We'll have to have 2 galleries, one of electronic stuff and one of just the cats, because Luna is like posing for us here, like, oh, you are doing work, please picture me.
If this video gets 10 likes, I'll put eyebrows on her.
She's got angry eyebrows already. Yeah, anyway, I think when we look at portable gaming, the big one for pretty much everybody is going to be the Game Boy. The Game Boy showed what portable gaming could be. Yeah, you had all those little shitty handheld things before, but the Game Boy was the first real widespread, well-known portable gaming item.
Yeah, and people tried to rip it off. I mean...
Oh god, so many.
Like, one of my favourite YouTubers, Ashens, shameless but not shameless plug.
Not sponsored, but fuck yeah.
Yeah, we love you. He did the Quest for the Game Child film, which was awesome, and that is essentially a knockoff Game Boy.
It is a knockoff Game Boy, and he covers a few different ones on his channel actually. So go and check him out.
Yeah, go look at him. Yeah, he does things with a sofa, and it's all very nice.
Poundland specials.
Yeah,
eating with food. It's very good.
Yep, but yeah, the Game Boy definitely, and it evolved over the years. From the original Game Boy, you had the Colour, you had the Pocket.
Yeah.
The Pocket Lite, Japan only. Look it up if you've got money. Get one. They are worth it.
Yeah, and it spiraled from there, and I think we're going to touch base on a few of the important ones. But I mean, the original Game Boy, I mean, if you are too young to remember it, again, about the same size as the Switch case, which is a nice, easy comparison.
Thicker.
A lot thicker. Imagine 5 Switch cases stacked together. Yeah. It was chonky.
Or just pick up a house brick, you know.
Yeah,
it's about the same.
Yeah.
But a house brick doesn't take batteries, so it's kind of better.
Again, you had these big chunky cartridges that you'd slam in, and off and away you went, and it was all black and white.
Mate, it was monochrome green.
Yeah, because it was green not backlit, but it was like a weird green sort of screen to it. But it was monochromatic, literally on or off. That was the pixel options. There was no shading, no. There
was a tiny bit of contrast. It was either pitch black or surface of the sun. It was very hard to get it in between. But the Game Boy actually has got a really interesting story behind it in terms of how fucking tough they are. So I can't.
Oh God, yeah, you could log one at a brick wall 12 times without it breaking.
Better than that. So this particular Game Boy is on show in a museum in Japan, I believe. So essentially, there was an army soldier stationed, I believe, maybe Middle East, Bosnia, somewhere like that. And he had one of these in the barracks that got bombed, and they recovered it, and it works.
Oh yeah, because they've still got it plugged in, haven't they? So that you can see it running.
It runs a continuous demo version of Tetris.
Yeah.
And it's completely charred.
But it works.
But it works.
And that's the thing, because these were designed with children in mind. They were designed with the fact that this is how we get kids early. We can make a lot of money here, but we can get kids in early, and we can make sure that mum and dad aren't worried about spending that extra bit of money, because it's going to last. The kid can bounce it off the pavement. The kid can drop it in the cinema and watch it bounce all the way down the steps.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. It's going to work still.
But not only that, if you look at the entire Game Boy range, please pay attention, portable console makers, or console makers in general, because these bitches came in every colour under the sun.
Yeah. Especially once the actual Game Boy Color came out.
Yeah.
Because that was obviously the second iteration. It was a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to hold.
And transparent plastics.
Transparent plastics.
See, if you look at this generation, look at the console generation. It's got Apple syndrome in that everything's sleek and it's now losing things. We're looking at you, Microsoft. Why the fuck are you taking the disk drive away? Go home, you're drunk. Everything's consoles are so boring. Bar the 360 and PS4 occasionally getting a custom joypad, everything's just so shit. What happened to those, disgusting coloured GameCubes, or the Pikachu edition Nintendo 64, or even that fucking, ridiculous, Atari Jaguar thing with all the sharp, edges and, boasting 64 bits of butt-fuck power.
I mean, the best part was, is Nintendo still do it to this day, where they released the consoles slightly different and themed to the different games. So you had the Pikachu one and things like that. And they were so bright and so colourful, and they were all unique and individual, and they felt more like a reflection of you. Yep. The transparent plastics, we saw today some Joy-Cons for the Nintendo Switch. I need them. Flat out, I need them. That is such a good look, and it's a shame that it's gone away.
Yeah, I mean, all the consoles, all the core console itself, or tablet if you want to call it that, is still that same dull black colour. And it's now fallen to third-party manufacturers who are willing to like injection mold these things in all these different colours. And there are companies out there that will modify it, but like it just seems so dull. I mean, like don't get me wrong, Nintendo have always had variety throughout the console range. I should know this better than most, having to be a wage cook in a game store and
having to sell these things.
Yeah, and there was some really top-notch versions, like the Pikachu nearly said GBA, the Pikachu 3DS XL. That was awesome. The Super Nintendo version, all the crazy colours they did the DS in, and all the not so crazy colours.
Yeah, and I mean, later stages of the DS, they actually had changeable covers on, which I think they should have brought in from the beginning, really.
Yeah.
But that was very good. But the DSs were always really, really good. Nintendo in general are fantastic at colour and options.
And it's just come to mind, and I'm ashamed of this because I own it, but Nintendo did do transparent plastic consoles up until recently in the 2DS, or doorstop edition.
Yes, they did. Bright yellow one, is it you've got?
I've got a transparent yellow one. They did transparent yellow, transparent blue, and transparent red.
There's just something so nice about being able to see the little inner workings and see that little circuit board.
Yeah, when something's popped inside, you can be like, oh, that's gone. Or you can put light mods in them like a lot of people used to do.
Yeah.
It's just a damn shame.
It's just a great thing to have.
But let's move on.
Rewinding a bit, as we were saying, a little bit more about the customizability of the old Game Boys. You see, even to this day, people getting old Game Boys. Because people still third parties still manufacture original Game Boys, but you can actually get hold of old Game Boys that people have refurbed and remodeled. There's several artists on YouTube who literally take a Game Boy, take the case off, and will paint it, all 151 original Pokemon, or something like that, and do beautiful decoration and art on the cases.
It's more than that as well. I don't know if you're aware of the chiptune scene, but people essentially take those old Game Boys, they put extra sound chips in them, different controllers.
Backlighting.
Backlighting, but more I'm talking along the lines of they use these things for music production. Same with DS Lite, there's various apps you can sideload in. You can hook them up and use that virtual synthesizer to make authentic chiptune music.
Yeah.
I think there's a website called 8bitpeoples.com. A lot of things on that website are made with old Nintendo hardware. It was something me and a friend of mine were very interested in for a long time, but my original Game Boy is dead, so I was never able to really do anything about this.
Yeah, but I mean, the Game Boy did bring in some really big innovations to the world of portable gaming. The camera.
Oh yeah.
First real game camera. The printer.
Wow.
The Rumble Pack. It wasn't built in. That wasn't a standard thing, and you could clip on where the cartridges go, and then the cartridge slotted into the Rumble Pack.
Originally, Pokemon Pinball came with the
built-in Rumble Pack.
Yeah, and you had to put AAA battery in it. There was all sorts that the Game Boy did, and it just got built upon with the Advance, the SP, the very forgotten Micro, which even now is a kick-ass little console.
You have a Micro, don't you?
Somewhere, yeah. I've got a blue, like a metallic blue Micro. It only supports advanced games, though. But it came with the best screen, and it was actually overclockable. You could get a small mod chip put in, and you would hold the start and select buttons, and you would press R and L whether you wanted to up or down the clock speed. So the certain games that used to struggle actually played really well. Mario Kart Advance, I believe, was one of the games that benefited massively from it. Because you were seeing near to PC emulation frame rates. But that's a little bit too technical, and I imagine someone somewhere is glazing over and needing a crisp sandwich because of that.
You can see in the development of the Game Boy the way that Nintendo have moved. Now, people always joke about Nintendo with their consoles, about them not being able to make up their mind. It has 2 arms. No, it has 3 arms. The screen inside it. No, just don't joke about blah, blah, blah. They can't decide what sort of controls they want for their consoles. But you can see very clearly the development in the games. I mean, if we have a look. So you had the Game Boy and the colour and all that, which were all upright little consoles. All pretty much the same layout, just smaller, lighter, stronger every generation.
And then the Advanced came along.
Which is basically the same layout as a Switch. Screen in the middle, controls on the side. Yes, there was only one joystick and 4 buttons, but it's the same core layout. Smaller, I had a solid purple one. But then the SP came out, and obviously we went horizontal again temporarily, but obviously with the the flip
The
closed.
clamshell, yeah.
And then we moved on to the DS's, which obviously still had the clamshell, but returned more to the advanced widescreen setup.
Yeah,
and it slowly is perfected and developed until we've now got the Switch, which is sort of the middle ground between portable and an actual main console. But you can see the shape, and they went slightly off for a little while with the clamshell, but you can see how they've perfected it.
It's funny because the Wii U was the main...
Yeah.
See, the thing is, when it came to the DS was purely an experiment at the start, and they didn't want to tarnish the Game Boy name. So the Game Boy got sort of retired, if you would, and the DS sort of took over. And with the Switch, they wanted to try something different. So before the Switch, there was the Wii U, and they enjoyed that platform and they liked the ideas behind it, and that got pushed together. And essentially, it's like a 3DS and a Wii U had a very drunken night together.
A 3DS and a Wii, and it gave the Wii U.
No. For the Switch.
Oh, the Switch, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You can see again in the later stages of console, because we had the Wii and then we had the Wii U, and then basically a Switch is just a Wii U controller. Essentially, that's the core of what it is. So you can see how they've developed, and they've been innovating that whole time. They've been changing. They've been adapting. A lot of the time, I mean, I always preferred in consoles Xbox because I preferred the grip of the controller, and I can guarantee every generation the controller's going to be pretty much unchanged. It's the same basic shape, and it fits better in my hands.
Have you ever used a Dreamcast?
I have, yes.
Because that's pretty much where the Xbox controller idea came from.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is they're very static, they're very stagnant. Yes, they update the graphics and things on the PlayStation and the Xboxes, but they don't try a whole lot new. I mean, we did have the Kinect, and that was immediately thrown out the window.
Oh god, I remember that thing.
But they try and... Yes, I know the new PlayStation has obviously the touchscreen in the middle, but it's a standard PlayStation feel to the controller.
They've not changed it too much. Now, Microsoft has actually been through a lot. Do you not remember the Duke controller? The controller so big you could bludgeon someone with it.
I was speaking specifically about Xboxes, but yeah.
Yeah, the Xbox controller, the original one, was the Duke, and it was massive, and it was unwieldy, and certain buttons couldn't be pressed, and then they made the revision, which was more familiar to what we're currently using. But they actually re-released the Duke controller.
Why? It was terrible.
I've no idea. I wanted one. I wanted one purely for nostalgia. But then I remembered I've got a Crystal Xbox, so I don't need it.
No.
But no, Nintendo though. If you look at Nintendo, two other hardware developers and laughing stocks, depending on who you support. Nintendo have always innovated, even long before anyone else was in those markets.
Oh god, yeah.
Like the Game & Watch, and then we got the original like Nintendo Entertainment System, which saved the American console market from prolapsing all over itself. And then they brought, of course, the Super Nintendo, and then there was the Great Console War, where everyone was talking about, oh, it's 32-bit, oh, it's 64-bit, oh, we've got 128 bits.
Yeah.
And like the perfect example of this, I have a boxed. It was sealed until I got my grubby hands on it, Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
And that even says, in big 90s style text down the side, 32-bit console. And it's like, no one really knew what that was unless they had glasses thicker than me. You know? So it's one of those things. But the the Game Boy, like, how we look back and we think, oh yeah, the Game Boy was amazing.
It had a lot of limitations.
Yeah, but now we've got all these like filthy Fortnite players that have like grown up, and they're say grown up, but like their version of that was the DS, because like the DS was that console where everybody wanted it, even if they didn't know what it was.
Yeah, and even if you weren't really a gamer, pretty much everyone ended up with one at some point.
Yeah, they had that viral ad campaign where they even got Patrick Stewart to use one, which is
they were good.
fucking
and
cool.
To be honest, Nintendo's was probably the best marketing scheme Nintendo ever came up with. Once Nintendo's came out, everybody got a DS.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, to put this in perspective from the other side of the counter, at Christmases or birthdays or basically any time of the year where someone was living, breathing and near our store, it was like, and we got DS and Nintendogs, and it was like, yes, we've got like 5,000 copies in the back. Like someone nearly died from the pile when it fell over. That's how many copies we've got. And then we had the pandemic. Now this is something that I really want to talk about. So when our 4 cards came out,
I had an R4.
yeah. There's one sat on the desk next to me. I saved it from the trash can because I wanted to put some homebrew on my console. In no way have I used it for anything else.
No, we do not obviously support pirating games.
No. Each you're a living, breathing human. You can do whatever you want. If you want to do that, then I'm not going to say, like, yeah, that's good, but I'm just don't do it. It's not worth it. I mean, look at all the high quality titles we've got because piracy's sort of gone, well, I can't be asked to download it or work out how to do it, so I'm just going to pay for it. And then suddenly, look, there's all these fucking cheap games. But no, when that came out, like, Nintendo basically released an update for the DSi, and like when DSs were first getting connected to the internet so people could draw cocks on PictoChat across the world, they made it so that consoles would be bricked by an R4 card. And we had this sort of, like, almost constant stream, a steady stream of customers coming in, week out, all different every time with a different DS, and they say, oh, we put a game in it and it just stopped working.
Yep, and you always knew.
And I would just close the console, put it down on the desk, and lean over the counter and go, was it an R4 card by chance? And they would look at me and I'd be like, that voids your warranty. Like, I can't replace that. You've just, like, and some of these people would have bought the console the same fucking day, took it home, got their R4 card, and bzz, firmware lockout, console fire up. Some of them brought a message up on the screen saying, something along the lines of an unauthorized device is being used on this, blah, 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 and then it shuts off again. Some of them just refused to turn on, and some of them would just turn on to a black screen.
Yeah, I mean, the people behind the R4 cards, they fought for a long time against Nintendo. They were constantly releasing updates, and there were actually copycats after the big R4 crash. I ended up with another similar thing. I think it was called Artex or something like that. There was an A and an X, and it sounded slightly like R. And it just wasn't as good, it wasn't as sleek and streamlined, but a lot of what killed it was, in the end, Nintendo approaching the guys from R4 and hiring a bunch of them.
And they've
let's be honest, that's the best way they probably could have handled that.
And they've took down, well, I say took down, it's more like choke-slammed a bunch of people who were distributing the ROMs online to the point where I think there's a married couple in America who are basically bankrupt because they sued them for millions for hosting a ROM site with all these DS ROMs on.
And I understand when it's modern games, stuff still going on. Old Game Boy games, which you flat out cannot play on anything other than an emulator. It's a fine line.
But this is where Nintendo are still shilling their product 30 years on nearly. On the Nintendo Switch Online, they've got a little retro thing, which is lacking games, Nintendo.
Give me my old Pokemon games, Nintendo.
I was more hinting for like N64 compatibility.
Yeah, that would be very good as well.
I mean, the Switch is pretty fucking.
Get me some Mario 64 going on.
Oh, Mario Kart. I say all this, I have a Nintendo 64.
Yeah, we could just play it.
And a fucking stack of games.
Most people don't. Until I started dating you, I didn't have access to this.
This is true. So, yeah, Nintendo, again, we've rimmed them a lot in this podcast so far, and it'll probably carry on for a little bit longer.
Oh, they've done some terrible things. They've had some terrible decisions over the years. I think one look at the marketing for the Wii U would tell you that. Until I started dating you, you're the first person I actually knew who had a Wii U. I genuinely thought it was just the screen controller that attached to a normal Wii.
A lot of people thought that.
And it was marketed like that, and that was a terrible idea, because everyone was like, well, I don't really need it.
Well, try buying one. Like, I worked the midnight launch for the Wii U, and we were selling them, like, base console was like 330 quid. And they were trying to, on top of that, the managers were like, we need to shill our cover. And it was like 40 quid for the cover. And we were like scaring these people who've just bought their consoles. Like, if you drop that, it's 110 quid from Nintendo. They can't be bought separate, you know. And I'm just thinking, fuck me. The people that are here are probably going to have a fucking plinth for this, because hardcore Nintendo fans look after their shit. And like, you just wouldn't give this thing to a child. You wouldn't have 110 quid's worth of controller and screen soaring across the room.
And that's the problem, because Nintendo's core fan base has always been the younger generation.
Yeah.
You look at Mario, you look at Pokemon, you look at Kirby, anything.
Yeah.
The main target audience for that is children. Making your consoles not child safe is a bad idea.
I mean, to be fair, the Switch, I would go as far as saying I wouldn't give that to anyone under 12.
No, same.
Because that's a lot of money, and it's a lot of bits to break.
Yeah, and to be fair, their target audience is probably closer to the age of 9. You know, or younger, maybe.
I don't know. I think the Switch has sort of grown up. It's like the first... Well, no, it isn't the first Nintendo console that's grown up. I'd like to say that like the N64 and the GameCube had some pretty graphic games on them.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, of course, the 8 and 16-bit era, they had like the Mortal Kombats and the Street Fighters and some Contra and some fucking banging games.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, like, you look at the Switch, you've got Doom on it, Doom 2016 on it. You can rip the fucking jowls out of a demon and slap him to death with the wet end of his severed arm on a Switch.
Yeah.
Like, Nintendo, hello.
That's the thing, though. The Switch is probably their most successful handheld, because they are putting fucking everything to it.
Well,
you can get any game on the Switch. You can get Skyrim, you can get Doom, you can get Diablo. You want it, it is on the damn Switch.
Santa Tracker.
Yeah, you can get Nomad Santa Tracker.
It's ridiculous, but
it's a good marketing move.
But there's lots of other handhelds that people have forgotten about. So let's move away from Nintendo
to your favourite ones.
Well, before we go on to that,
okay,
and there's going to be someone here listening to this who's just going to go, either I'm not surprised or really, but I had an N-Gage. Mm-hmm. I also had the N-Gage QD, and like a vertical screen on it was a huge flop. It was called the taco phone for a reason.
Yeah,
but it had Sonic on it, Sonic N. There was Asphalt Racing game, Pandemonium. And there was some awesome little titles, and because it was a Symbian phone, like you could sideload other games that were made for other phones onto it, like on a memory card. And like I thought it was the shit. Like a mobile phone, I could send a text message to my mate, and then I could go and play Colin McRae Rally on it.
Yeah.
And it was PS1 level graphics on a phone. Like what the fuck? And it was awesome. Like a lot of people look back and probably think, oh, I'm glad I didn't buy one of those and this, that, and the other. Well, fuck you guys, because mine's in my drawer and I still play on it from time to time.
I can attest to this. Yes, he does.
It's also handy as a backup phone.
Yeah.
I would not be ashamed to pull that out and be like, I'm just going to send a quick text. And then people go, what the fuck's a text? It's like WhatsApp, but more private.
Why have you pulled a brick out your phone? What is this?
Yeah, I pulled a brick out of my phone.
Sorry, why have you pulled a brick out your pocket? Well, it's like midnight. I'm allowed to be tired.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then we've got Sony, of course. We can't ignore the PSP and the PS Vita.
Which you are constantly, like, obsessed with.
They were fantastic consoles. They came out at a good time, and they had a good selection of games. Maybe the UMD... or the weird like cartridge CD mini disc style thing they made. It was good and it was innovative because it could hold up to 1 gigabyte and a bit of data, which was good for big games.
Which sounds like nothing nowadays.
Well, back then, this was like 2005, 2006.
They had a Sims game on there because my friend Kim had a PSP when they were new. Her and her brother got them both for Christmas. And she had one of the Sims games, or I'm assuming the Sims game that was on it. And it was just... that game controlled really clunky on it. And that turned me off for it.
But if you look at the first party titles that came out, so you've got the Gran Turismos, you've got Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Little Big Planet, like those fantastic titles that were brought across. And the PSP sort of had like in between PS1 and PS2 style graphics. Some games are better than others. It had PS1 back compatibility, and through certain modifications, you could play any backup PS1 game on it.
We should make it clear that obviously this was after the PS2, so it wasn't like it was used as a stepping stone from one to the next.
No,
so people saw it as a backward step. I think that's why.
But
it failed.
The PSP also had PS3 integration, just like the Vita. The remote play feature, which I'm not going to say Nintendo copied it, but Nintendo did it better. Yeah. And of course, again, with the Vita, I mean, it was the little console that could. It has been out a very long time now, and it's got some fantastic games for it. Valhalla, if you ever have a Vita, play Valhalla. It is great. Cyberpunk bartending. Sounds sad, but it's just like, it's great. It's a nice, relaxing game.
And it's not spelt how you think either.
No, you spell it in old-style leet speak.
Yeah.
Hello 2000s. Let me get my unregistered hypercam out. Sony had some great handhelds. Of course, you've got like the knockoff stuff, and then we've got that sweet cancer known as mobile gaming, where every iCook and Blamdroid going around playing Diner Dash or Crossy Road or some other weird variant of a game which I personally don't think works well with a touchscreen.
That's the thing. Most mobile games are mobile games. They are simple and mind-numbing, basically. It's to kill a bit of time while you're on the bus.
They're also a cash grab. I mean, look at all these, like, shilling...
microtransactions up the wazoo.
Yeah, like shilling my coins so I can play more of that game. Like, no, just no.
But I think mobile gaming is very much separate to portable gaming. Again, you can't have anything too high power because you'll overheat people's phones. You'll drain the battery and they won't be able to play.
So that's the people playing PUBG and Fortnite on the bus.
Again, though, the battery is dead by the time they finish the 20-minute bus ride.
It's a smartphone. Like, do you know another... let's just push my LG G6 to one side because that does last more than a day and a half.
Yeah, and mine, Huawei, my Huawei Mate 10, that lasts about 2 days.
It's also spying on us because it's Huawei.
I like it. It's got a nice back. It's shiny.
I'm sure the Chinese agent in there is agreeing with this and enjoying this advanced hearing of our podcast. Mine's a bit Korean, so... but yeah, there's some fantastic things. And I mean, we can't not talk about the Dreamcast VMU. Or maybe we can. You know, like...
I've heard of it, and I've never actually come across one.
I have like 3.
Where? Bitch, where?
They're in the box with all the other consoles.
You mean the box that we've not pulled out of your loft and I've never seen? That you keep telling me exists, but I've never known. Never known.
We're going to get this. So the VMU was simply a memory card with a screen on it. So you'd plug it into the top of the Dreamcast controller, and it would fill a little square on the screen, and it would either show you the time or a nice graphic or some sort of jingle.
Yeah.
You could pull it out, pop a cap on it, and it revealed a Game Boy style. Imagine a Game Boy, but like a quarter of the size. It was like this big. Well,
like the mini Game Boy.
Yeah, like imagine a Game Boy Micro with just like an inch chopped off it. It had a monochrome display, and it had various mini games you could play on it. And the other cool thing was, if you took it to school, and you had a friend who also had a Dreamcast VMU, you could plug them together end on end, trade save files, or if you had the Sonic Adventure games, you could battle or trade the chows on it, and other cool little things like that. It was highly unutilized, and Sony even made a Japan-only version of this on the PlayStation 1 years earlier, and Sega sort of picked it up and refined it. It was pretty cool. And the ones I've got one still sealed in the box, and it's still... I believe it still works because
a bit of money.
Yeah, because I bought 2 and opened one, and it had been sealed for like 6 or 7 years, and I pulled the tab off it, and it still works to this day. So I'm assuming the other one is, but I got a transparent blue one and a transparent orange one. I've got a white one as well that came with the console, but transparent's always cooler.
But while we briefly mentioned that, obviously with the portable consoles clipping together to trade stuff, let's talk about how, for granted, kids take the internet now.
Fuck me.
So the year I got my Game Boy Advance was the year that the SP came out. So all my friends had SPs. We were quite a poor family. It was my first handheld console. It was the first time we could afford one. And it was the year that Fire Red and Leaf Green came out. Pokemon. So I had Fire Red. My friend Kim had her fancy-ass Advance SP with Leaf Green. And I remember we were, for one of the school holidays, basically it was a free-day, game day. You could bring in, if you had them, your portable consoles, you could bring in board games, you could bring in snacks, and it was just a free day. We were let loose in the corridors in year 3 at school. And me and Kim and Tabassum and Rebecca and all my other friends spent the whole day sat in the library of the school trading Pokemon. Now, the SP came with this very cool thing, or at least Kim's and everyone else has seemed to have come with this very cool thing. My Advance, if I wanted to trade something with someone, I had to get out this long-ass purple cable, and I had to plug into mine and plug into theirs and transfer over. Bitch, they could do wireless. They were like 6 levels above me. I had no idea what was happening.
Well, it's like the Game Boy Color had infrared.
Yeah.
But while we're on the subject of this, they also don't know the pain of changing AA batteries when the console runs flat. When you've got little red light, it's no longer red, dim.
I had rechargeable battery packs, because I think I mentioned before I got this like camera case with mine, which had a microscope sort of for the screen. It had a light, because obviously none of these were backlit.
Yeah, they would get the power from the console, that you would hook it into that cable.
My light came with the magnifier and actually had a battery in that setup. It didn't actually plug in, it was all part of one. You
see, if I was playing on a not sunny day, let's say, because this is how shit the screens were, I would have the lamp on, and then if I wanted to trade Pokemon, I had to get it to the screen, unplug, plug in, and then just sort of wing it. It was that bad. And we even did link cable battles. Like that was fun. We had the the 4-way comport connector, which let 4 of us play. It was so cool. And like on the subject of,
and to be fair, these weren't like short cables. They were like 6-foot cables.
Yep.
So they were like, you could sit on opposite ends of the classroom, you'd probably corrupt somebody, but they weren't like restrictive.
No.
They understood that obviously kids are going to move around when they're doing this, they're going to want to be sat on opposite ends of the sofa, blah, blah, blah. They were massive cables, but they were so clunky to carry around. That's why I had like, they say this big purple camera case for it. But there was so much stuff like that, like I say, because you could get the clip-on wireless ones, which I did end up getting one for my Advance in the end, which obviously plugs into the port and turns it wireless. But there were so many like accessories. Like I say, my Advance had a battery pack that I could recharge, a rechargeable battery pack, so I'd actually just plug it straight into the wall if it needed, and I would continue playing. The problem was that after maybe 3 or 4 months, battery pack broke. And it had to be plugged in constantly. If I unplugged, the battery would drain in 0.2 seconds.
Wow.
And I had 0.2 seconds. And of course, at this point, I didn't need the back case of my Game Boy Advance. I'd lost that weeks ago. I was a kid. It was gone in the wind, so I couldn't use normal batteries. So I was stuck constantly chained. And I remember once I'd been called for dinner and I was playing Pokemon. So Pokemon you have to manually save. And I was in the Elite Four. And I was like, right, I saved recently. I've been called in quickly through to dinner, and I didn't think to save it.
Oh no.
So I had saved it the gym before the final, and I was in the last room of the Elite Four. So there was probably about 6 to 8 hours worth of gameplay. My dad came through, went, "Oh, why is this turned on at the wall? No one's using this socket. Charlotte should have battery in her Advance." Flick. And I lost everything. Everything was gone.
That's harsh.
It was terrible. Like, normally it wouldn't matter, but because the battery pack was broken, it had to be plugged in. Yeah, it made me very sad.
Yeah, that sucks. But on the plus side, though, I mean, if you look at the massive library of games that are available, I've got a few I want to call rarities, but they might not be, such as Wolfenstein 3D and Doom for the GBA. And they even play on the... Because I've got a GameCube with the player, which plugs at the bottom, which is amazing because now we can play these games without having to squint over an unlit display and worry about battery life.
Yeah, just
we
can to the TV.
Yeah, we can comfortably sit with a Wavebird pad and do things properly. And it supports all the same accessories. It's even got a COM port on the front of the console, so you could trade between a GBA and a GameCube.
We had the Pokemon Center version of the GameCube. It was all tied in together, and obviously you had the tournament versions of Pokemon on the GameCube. So all tied. They've always been good at tying everything through with Pokemon.
There was even a cool little thing worth mentioning. So it was one of the Pokemon games for the Nintendo 64. It actually had a add-on card that fitted into the back of the Nintendo 64 controller that let you play any Pokemon Game Boy game through it on your TV, but only the Pokemon games. It looked for a particular signature in the file. People have found workarounds in it so that you can play other games on it. But it's just a cool little thing worth mentioning since we're on the subject of Pokemon and what have you. That the Nintendo wanted everyone and everything to play their games on these platforms.
Yeah, and it's not like this whole thing with, releasing a movie and obviously having Pokemon Go and having everything tying with Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee and then the new generation and everything tying together. You can port Pokemon between everything for a cost.
Mm-hmm.
They always had Pokemon Tournament, they had Pokemon Pinball, we mentioned with the Rumble Packs in the old consoles. They had Detective Pikachu, the game, before the film. They had the films ever since the first 151 Pokemon,
And let's not forget the most important thing. When we couldn't take us Game Boy to school, we picked up our Pokemon cards and we took those to school. And I feel like this is a weird one. So a lot of people used to collect them and trade them, but I feel like I'm one of a few people that actually actively played these games.
I had
the
no
card
idea
game.
how to play.
I'll show you sometime. It's fun, honestly.
I'm assuming like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering, which I've played before, so...
Weeaboo.
I worked temporarily in a physical
I know.
RPG and game shop,
Imagine Hearthstone, but with extra steps.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, so it's a weird and wonderful world with portables, and there is a lot of things that Nintendo have done and other developers have done. Look at the Neo Geo Pocket Color or the Game Gear. Two absolutely fucking superb handhelds. So this is the thing that blew my mind. The Game Gear had a backlit display. It had a television adapter, so you could watch live TV through it. It weighed more than a small planet, and it took 6 AA batteries. Curse you. But the games were fantastic. I had Terminator, I had the Sonic games, I think I had RoboCop for it as well.
all the old movie tie-ins.
Yeah, well, it was fucking
Old
awesome.
Terminator
And
games.
I've still got the box and the mains AC adapter for it. Again, though, this is one of those consoles that is prone to failure. And the backlit light comes on, but then as soon as it reads the game cart, it goes off. So it's just it just blue balls you. You can still play the games, but you just need to be sat under a
bright light.
bazillion lumen light.
That was the biggest problem with the old ones, is the lack of backlit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people went in and modded, even at the time, backlighting into old Game Boys.
But then you look at stuff like the Neo Geo Pocket Color, that was essentially like an early arcade machine in your pocket, and it has this really delightful clicky analog stick on it, and of course the 2 buttons. But that was actually a horizontal layout, similar to what you saw on the Game Boy Advance. But they came in crazy blue urban camo and all kinds of cool colours like that.
But yeah, in conclusion, I think we can take away one big thing from this. People making portable consoles, give us back our colours.
Yeah.
We want them, please. Please.
If you look back at that era, not just within gaming, but technology in general, look at Apple when they were good. They brought out PCs in crazy colours. I know people are going to be like, it's not a PC, it's a Mac. Look inside it, nerd. Yeah.
Transparent.
Yeah, you could see exactly when that ray tube was going to blow up. And it was just cool. And nowadays, everything's boring, everything's sleek, everything's supposed to be edgy and it just doesn't.
It's one of the things that actually drew me to the Huawei phone, because it has that colourful back. It's something more. And people buy cases for their stuff all the time. They want the extra colours. They want the extra brightness. So give.
Yeah, stop making folding phones. Stop making stupid screens with holes in them. And Nintendo, please give us more of the old back catalogue. I would happily pay $5 a month, if not more, if you would just add a couple more games into that Switch Online every month. No one really wants the older platform stuff. Give us the sweet shit from the 90s. That's what we really want.
Let's be honest, that's where most of you...
SNES, N64, GIB. It wouldn't surprise me if the end game for the Switch was, let's slip some GameCube games in there.
That would be fine with us.
I have a GameCube in the other room, but please, Nintendo.
But yeah, I think that's probably coming to the close of what we've got time for. I have some editing to do, but it's currently a little bit higher than our normal recording time. So.
Oh snap! Yeah, we kind of got lost in on that one, but it was a good thing. It was a nice thing to discuss, and we want to engage a little bit more with you guys, so feel free to leave comments, talk about your favourite consoles, or if there's a particular console you feel that we've missed out on and you want to yell at me over it, go for it.
Specifically him. And not to worry, I mean, I know we've spoken a lot about Pokemon, sort of vaguely, tangentially about Pokemon this series.
Yeah.
Obviously, everyone's very excited about the new Pokemon Sword and Shield, based in the UK.
Don't forget Pokemon Gun. Pokemon Gun.
Pokemon Gun. There was a newspaper in the UK that falsely reported on Pokemon Gun. They were sold by a fake logo. We are terrible. But yeah, so we will be presumably talking a lot more than that. I know we're both planning on we'll get one of each. We don't know who's going to have what until the legendaries come out and we can fight over it then. But we will be going into more depth and covering, I think, a lot more about our Pokemon background then.
I honestly don't know how this is going to play out, because if the new Pokemon games are based in the UK, what about, say for example, if Muck wants to use acid? Like, that's a legit thing in Britain that happens. Like,
it's a drug.
No, acid attacks.
Well, yeah, acid attacks as well.
Yeah.
So we don't have guns, so people occasionally, when they're really, really mad, will buy acid and throw it at people's faces. Yay!
Yeah.
It's a lot rarer than
Or they'll pop
guns.
into a local
Knife
B&M
brand,
and buy a bread knife.
Yeah.
Have you got a licence for that, mate?
Yeah, it's fun here. I would like to see if we get any specific Galar region, like we had the Alolan variants, if we have any variants for that. Just Muck, which is just made of 1,000 cigarette butts.
or just a really grumpy Pokemon in a flat cap that misses working in the mines.
And just steampunk variants. I mean, I think that's the obvious one.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's lots of cogs and wheels and stuff kicking around. Maybe
there's Clink Clank and Clink Clank, which are an actual series of Pokemon that are just cogs.
Just
give them mustaches and monocles.
I mean, that's the noise my car makes occasionally. I honestly think that, like, the people that have developed this maybe have gone and watched a couple of Van Helsing films. Like, maybe, I don't know, fucking Oliver Twist and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and, like, thought, fucking hell, this is such a crazy little island, let's base our Pokemon game here, and see how many people get mugged and how many musicals will be broken out into.
Yeah. I mean, it's very Game of Thronesy as well on the map layout, so we can't ignore that. But again, that's based on the UK, so... Believe it or not, foreigners, there is not... Hadrian's Wall is not like a line of ice above and warm, sunny below. Like, all of England is just wet, rainy and cold, and sometimes it snows over everything. Like, Hadrian's Wall does not mark a line where the snow hits. Fantasy people, please stop thinking this.
Yeah. There's also a queue leading up to it.
Yeah, usually. And it's like 6 feet of just crumbled stone nowadays. There's not much to it.
There's really nothing there anymore.
No. There's much more interesting things. Go to Alton Towers, you can see an old falling down castle there, and it's actually got a haunted ride inside it, so...
Yeah, and you can ride the Smiler and hopefully not die.
Hopefully. But yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of things I think a UK-based one can bring to it. Have you seen all the stories that everyone thinks the male protagonist character is like a polite English boy and the female one is like a violent Scottish lass?
Yes, I think it's
fucking
great.
Knife you.
Knife crime is no joke, unless you live in Britain and we can't protect ourselves from knife crime. Then it kind of feels like a joke.
It's not massively common unless you're into the drug scene. So.
Or down south, apparently. They're very...
That's because London's down there.
They're very stab-tastic down there, I must say.
I think one thing that Nintendo have to include is a specific experience I had in London. I was travelling with my family. I was going to basically the London Dungeons. It's a horror and historical walkthrough attraction. Anyway, it's not important. We were walking to it, and we were walking down this little back street surrounded by office buildings, and a group of people start walking towards us, and we don't really register them at first. It's like 4 men, young men, in just normal jeans t-shirts. And then from this crowd of men, there's like 4 of them sort of part, and in the middle is Mr. T. Not the Mr. T, a white dude painted and dressed up as Mr. T. Now, me and my family all have brightly coloured hair. My brother's at the time was hot pink. And this Mr. T guy just runs up to my brother, grabs him by the shoulder and goes, "I love your hair, mate!" And then just runs. with these, like I say, smartly dressed men. They just run.
Holy crap.
So please include this in your London area.
I've just realised that this guy is so woke. Now, do you remember the sort of little viral video around of that crazy guy walking an emu?
Yes.
What if he knew that like this Pokemon game was happening? And what if he was getting ready for some sort of surprise cameo, but instead of walking an emu, he walks like...
Dodrio.
Yeah. It's a Dodrio! You bastard!
Fenton! Jesus Christ, Fenton! There's going to have to be so many English meme references.
It's all going to be tea crumpets and hello, hello, hello. That's all it's going to be.
Yeah.
But we look forward to it, and I look forward to spending my well-earned shekels on it.
Mm-hmm. But we'll call it here anyway, guys. One last thing we want to touch on. So next week, we're going to be talking about advertising in gaming. Both how games are advertised and how people advertise in games. So that's going to be a bit of an unusual one for us.
We'll probably touch on loot boxes as well.
Probably. Most likely. But our bit of advice relating to that this week before we go. Adverts for games. Always look at the bottom of the screen. Because 99% of adverts for games do not contain gameplay footage, and they will tell you that in the smallest little characters in the bottom of the screen. You vote with your wallet. You whatever you buy is where people will put more money into.
Not always. Look at EA.
Don't let them trick you with fancy high-def adverts.
Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
We saw an advert for Anthem today in the cinema, and... there was about 0.2 seconds of gameplay footage.
If that. I mean, the first thing
it's very well done. It's very, impressive cinematography. But it's not the game. It's
really not. And the thing that makes me laugh is that this game right now, as we speak, is killing PlayStation 4s. It is literally just reaping them. And, yeah, just vote for your wallet. If there's a game you're looking forward to... I mean, look at, again, going back to Metro... and the Epic Store, because it's there. There's loads of people that are boycotting it, and it's becoming a bit of a meme now, because people are like, there's another game that got delayed. I've totally forgot the name of it. I don't really care about it, but the news that carried with it was the comments. There was just a stream of, looks like it's been delayed 12 months, even though it actually comes out next week, but they're just waiting for the exclusivity to wear off, because I think what a lot of people don't realise is that it's not the fact that we want to spend money on Steam, it's the fact that we've invested money in it and we have a full built library on there, and we want to continue to support the platform and keep our games in one place.
And not only that, but you have to be aware that things like Steam, you don't buy the game, you rent the ability to play the game through Steam. If you are worried about, let's say if you don't think, like for example, the Epic Store is going to last past 5 years, you're going to lose your games after those 5 years. You've rented the ability to play it through the Epic Store. You don't own that game, and they owe you nothing. It says so in the T's and C's. Unless you think that the platform is going to last a long time, buy the physical copy.
However, Steam and Valve, more to the point, they will have something in place where if Steam went shit under, they would do a patch to the client, which means that the games you downloaded at that moment in time you could continue to play, but they just lose all online features.
Yeah, but
something
remember,
like
legally they have no requirement to do that. So some of the smaller ones that are coming out and are like, we're going to be better than Steam. Warning.
The only one that I can really advocate for on this is GOG, because they do DRM-free downloads of games. So as long as you're a data hoarder like myself and you keep backups of pretty much everything you've ever had, you could just download your entire library and back it up, and then you can install it and reinstall it to your heart's content without having to worry about a client. And on that note...
Be careful is what we're saying.
Let's call it here. It's clocked over to an hour. That's a new milestone.
Yeah, but we did have the initial 15 minutes of cat attacks, so...
I take that statement back. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Join us next week, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, have a great week. Bye.